Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my life. My name is Jordan, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys about the differences between a heat mat and a heat lamp and which one would be best for you. Now, if you're new to the hobby and you're not quite sure what the difference is, heat lamps are basically a lamp which has different types of light bulbs you can put inside. You put it on the top of your terrarium, and that provides heat for your snakes. Now, a heat mat, on the other hand, is pretty much like this mat. It's like a square, rectangle, whatever, it depends on what size you get, which you put on the outside of the bottom of the tank and it sticks right to it, and it heats up the glass, which provides heat for your animals on the bottom. You have to research whatever type of snake that you want, because their needs are going to determine or help determine which one you should use. By that, I mean if your snake spends all the time on the bottom and they need a bit more heat, like a Kenyan sand boa for example, you're going to probably want to use a heat mat because they never really come up to the surface and they need a bit more heat, so a heat mat would do the trick. Whereas if you have like a, I don't know, like a green tree python who spends most of the time up in trees and they're never really on the ground, a heat mat's going to be kind of useless because they're never actually going to be on the ground to get warmed up. So a heat lamp would probably be your best bet. So we're going to start with pros and cons for heat lamps first. This right here is a heat lamp. I don't know which wattage this is. What is it? 150 watts. So, a real quick tip, you always want to get a heat lamp. This is for safety reasons, to reduce the chances of fire and everything, is you want to get a heat lamp that can take quite a bit more wattage than what you're going to use. So for example, this is 150 watt capacity, and this is only, what is it, a 50 watt light. The point is you want to get a lamp that can take more wattage than the actual bulb that you're going to be using. So pros for these are that they do they're very versatile, because you can use, this is just one example of a lamp, like a light you can put inside. There's so many different types of lights you can put in that are different, like infrared, or you can use just normal heat. There's like intense heat. There's so much you can use for them, so that way no matter what snake you have, for the most part, there'll always be a light that can give enough heat and be used for what you would like. So for example, like the infrared ones you can use at nighttime because the snakes can't really see that color of light. Another thing is that these ones specifically, I forget the brand, but always look for one that has an adjustable dial. So this one you can adjust the temperature, which is very handy, and it also comes with this sweet little clamp here. So first off, these get very hot, so you can just hold it like this and no problem, and also these clamp on really easily to whatever you kind of needed to hold on to if you require that. Now the cons about these are that they are pretty expensive. The other downside though is that these can be quite expensive and they don't always last very long, so you're going to be replacing at least the lamp or the light bulbs quite frequently. More so the lights. Like I said, the lamps do last for quite a long time, but the bulbs don't usually last very long. Snakes do require belly heat to digest their food, so these don't always provide the best belly heat since it's providing heat from the top, where the heat mat's kind of more useful in that fact because they heat the bottom of the tank, which provides heat on the snake's belly. Now we're going to quickly move on to the heat mats. So like I was saying earlier, these guys, they are pretty good for snakes mostly because they do provide the belly heat, plus if you have a rack system or anything, you can't put lamps on them because they take up a lot of space. So that's when the heat mats are very nice. Then again, if you have a tank on the floor or anything, you have to be careful, or on carpet, you have to be careful because they can pose a fire hazard. So they do have, I'll show you again in a second, but they have like these little spacers which you put underneath the tank, and I'll probably put it on a solid surface just to reduce the risk of fire, plus then the heat can flow through nicely and evenly. Another pro about it is that they aren't too expensive and they last a very long time. I've never had to replace the heat mat, and I've had it for 4 years. Whereas I've had to replace lamps and lights, like I said. So the heat mat is economically very good choice. Now another real quick tip is that Exoterra is the brand that mostly sells them. They have rainforest and desert, and you always want to make sure you get the rainforest because the desert gets way too hot for pretty much any reptile. If you do get the desert, you're definitely going to want to get a thermostat because you want to make sure that the temperature does not get too hot, because they can get burns on their belly if you're not careful. Now real quick, we're going to head into the cons of the heat mats. So the only downside that I can really think about them is that they are more of a permanent thing. You know, get a new tank or try something different, you're going to have to get a new heat mat, because once you rip it off, you can't reuse it because the adhesive is gone, and you're most likely going to wreck some of the mechanical components in there. Another quick downside about that as well is that if you switch the type of snake or the type of animal you have in there, you might have to get a new heat mat. For that reason is because, or a thermostat as well, because if you have like a hotter setting on there for like a sand boa or something, and all of a sudden you get a corn snake and they require pretty much room temperature, you just need a bit of heat, then you're gonna have to either get a smaller one or you're gonna have to get a thermostat, because you're gonna definitely want to make sure that the heat is not too much. Always put a thermometer in your tank. The best ones, I do have a full review on my channel. I'll post a link right here, so go check that out. It's all about the Exoterra digital thermometer. Very good type. It kind of explains in the video why they're so good, but basically it's just so you know that you're not frying your snakes, which would not be good, because we want them to stay alive, happy, and healthy. So overall, I kind of recommend the heat mats if you have a permanent setup and you have a snake that doesn't, you know, go up in trees or anything, just because they're so handy. They don't look bulky at all. You can kind of stack them more in like a rack system, let's say, like for different types of tanks. You could have like 2 10-gallons on a stand or whatever, because you don't have an extra 1.5 feet of lamp taking up space. So they're very handy for that reason, and it looks nice and clean. So I'm going to show you the tank real quick. So this is my 40-gallon tank. You can kind of see Merlot's just right chilling there on the bottom. Blizzard's in another hide over there. But as you can see, it looks very clean, real nice, because the heat mat is just underneath there. So these are the spacers I was talking about, because you can see that I can kind of put my finger underneath the tank, which makes it so that all of the warm air can get through, and they're just like little plastic things. You can probably buy them at like hardware store as well if these ones don't work. But yeah, it's just chilling underneath there, so there's a bit of space. Snakes like it quite a lot. Thanks for watching. Please like, favorite, share, and subscribe. Talk to you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic evening. See you later.